Hey everyone. Well, I guess here we are, week one, talking about AI for your business. So why should you care? Why did you join me here, right? Like that's one of those things that we all talk about. Sorry for any weirdness. This is my first time doing this type of setup, so just giving it a shot, just checking on chat and things like that. So we're going to go ahead and kick it into gear here now. Just having a little bit of an issue with the graphics, so going forward we'll have some visuals on the screen as we stream live as well. So this is week one. So who am I? Why should you be watching me? Well, I'm Justin Coleman. I'm a logician, mathematician, developer, data scientist, enthusiast, lover of all things AI. I've held senior positions at companies such as Comcast, and Ford Direct, which is Ford Motor Company's marketing division, as well as high-end consultancy where I help companies like British Petroleum, American Honda Motors, just to name a few small companies. Just kidding, they're not small, so please, Honda, if you're watching, remember me, pick up the phone and call. But all jokes aside, I've been responsible for statistical analysis and algorithm design, also development and deployment, and I have probably about an estimated 200 or so million interactions on all the platforms in which I've managed. So really AI for the last 15 years has really been my passion. So October 2023, I started my own business, Feek AI, which you can see up here in the corner, and really just out there trying to make a difference and change the world. So as we go on, this is a live presentation. So feel free to ask questions. Chat is live, and I'll reply in real time. This is real, not a bot. So what can you expect from the series? You can expect some tips, tricks, jargon. Think of this as the drinking straw from a very big fire hose that's artificial intelligence. And really just kind of break it down into more understandable, digestive terms. So that way, as this technology grows, you're not so overwhelmed. You have a little bit to understand. This isn't designed necessarily to make you an AI expert by any means. This isn't designed to be like a Coursera or Udemy course. Really, it's just informational. Some low-level terms and applicable uses for artificial intelligence, and maybe how others have applied this technology here in their own business stack. So we'll give guiding principles, tips, terms, words of wisdom, also words of warning, because AI can have some negative effects if not used properly. So what this series isn't, we covered it already, right? We're not here to make you an AI expert. We're not here to make you, the next Andrew or any other name. You pick it, whoever. I don't care. But we're not going to make any claims that you're going to be a mathematician or a logician. But you will be able to understand a little bit more about the applicable use cases and how it might help your business or your career, etc. Because it's fairly broad. What can you get out of this? Again, whatever you put into it, and feel free to ask questions. Again, we're live. So, rough outline and format of the show is, about 35 to 45 minutes of the topics, and I'd like to spend the rest of the time really just making it available for you, so that way I can help you learn. So let's go ahead and dive right in. And this week's topic, and it's part 1 of 3, is starting your AI journey. So today, I should have probably checked my sound levels. Okay, looks like it's going good. Okay, if you guys are having issues hearing me, just let me know in the chat. So I forgot to check my audio. Sorry guys. So, just like I said, if there's any audio issues, feel free to let me know. Alright, so today, how do you identify the scope and define your success metrics? Because really that's square one for any AI project, and maybe not even just AI, but projects in general, right? You have to build a scope. You have to understand what it is that you're doing, and how do you intend to measure that. And so, how big is your project, and what does success look like for you? So this can be, this can seem daunting. You may want to do it all. Some people refer to that as boiling the ocean. But really, it's a lot more like cleaning a teenager's room or a car. It's super messy and yeah, it can be overwhelming, but there's this concept of incremental gains, an iterative approach. You can achieve wonderful success similar to compounding interest in your 401k. Just really take it one step at a time and build on each success. And I know that seems kind of cliche. And again, remember, this is the first of many. So keep watching, and we'll talk about more in-depth stuff. But I wouldn't give a toddler a T-bone, so we're not going to just dive right in and talk about processing, processing transitive terms and latent space. We're just not doing that today. So when we scope out these projects, one of the things we have to keep in mind that a lot of data science and a lot of AI projects fail. They do. Any given year, it's 70% or 80% of AI projects or initiatives, data science projects, initiatives, they fail to launch. And I feel that given my experience in about the dozen or so Fortune 100 and Fortune 500 companies that I've worked in, and helped them achieve their operational and AI efficiencies, that most of the time it's due to being overly ambitious. Everybody tags on to, well, what if it could do this? Or what if it could do that? And really, you have to start somewhere, and you have to build a foundation. You don't build a house with the roof. You build it with the end in mind, but at the same time, again, you don't start with the roof first. You start with the foundation, and really that's what this today is about. And one of the other things too is a lot of people think that AI has to be costly, but it doesn't. There's a lot of tools out there that you can spend $100,000, $200,000 a year on artificial intelligence tools or machine learning tools, applied AI, etc. Everybody's talking about that wonderful Chat GPT, and spending $500, $600 a year on Chat GPT business licenses, right? But you don't have to spend all that. You can do things that fall under that AI machine learning without having to break the bank. Because those things such as data storage costs, etc., those can add up if you're not careful. And really, the most successful projects really take that iterative approach. Where do you start at? Where do you build upon your successes? And again, I'm going to hammer on that a lot. And if this sounds redundant, my apologies. Again, we're just building some foundation and some framework here. So how do you determine the scope, right? We've said a lot of words, but can we get into some real meat and potatoes here? How do we determine the scope? So the scope for the overall project might be large. Maybe you have a lot of pieces that you need to tackle, but in this instance, I'm going to focus on the immediate needs. Whenever I have a large-scale enterprise project, I focus first on the immediate needs. What do I mean by that? Some people will call that like low-hanging fruit, easy wins, etc. But there's things that a business needs to do now, next week, next month, next 6 months, and next year, right? And you have to be able to address those in simple terms. Break it down. Understand, okay, hey, I need to be able, in order to get from A to Z, first I have to get from A to B. And I know that once I get to B, I can maybe step out a little bit further, again, we just want to really just define some real immediate wins and needs. So figure out what you can accomplish first, and let's focus on that. But to do that, you need to start with a success metric. And we have to ask ourselves, what does success mean to you? And that's something that I ask every stakeholder and every client that I take on, is what does success mean to you? For some, it might mean sales. For others, it might mean views. Every organization is different. Therefore, every approach should be taken as such. If you have somebody who's not really listening to your time, because I'm imagining that some of you who are watching this are working with some AI stewards in your field, that's one of those things where you have to really be able to address and have, some really crucial conversations about how your business is operating and how to define that success. And, people say that it's always an obvious answer, right? That it's always going to be sales. It's always going to be increasing profit. But sometimes it's about increasing awareness, right? Some products, some brands, some entertainers, organizations have a certain level of education really around what it is that they do. And so, again, just define it in simple terms. So let's use sales as as a point of reference here, right? Because sales is always nice. We know that advertising platforms such as Google Ads and Meta platforms, even TikTok nowadays, they offer tools, AI tools such as, which terms should you use, bidding strategies, portfolio bidding, audience identification and structuring. But they only have a portion of your data, right? They don't have they know who converted, they know who clicked. Maybe they might have some additional backing information, but what about all the enriched data that you have? And so that's really only one portion, so it's kind of going in with only hearing half of the story. And when you learn how to combine the data that you've collected over time around your customers, around the people who are interacting with your business, then when you apply it with those free tools that you're already paying for, your success will go up. And another thing to keep in mind is that pre-built tools, they really blanket the most common use cases, and in those common use cases, it's 80% of what people need, right? And maybe your business is niche. Maybe your business doesn't sit inside that 80%. And you have to take a different approach. And that's why you really just have to define what it is that you're trying to do and why you're doing it. But let's circle back a bit. Let's talk about that iterative approach. And we'll use sales as an example. There's the sales funnel, right? And the first portion of that sales funnel is getting the impressions, teaching people about your brand. So maybe you start there. Maybe you focus on how can I get more people to see my product, because my product, my video, my jokes, etc. They're so good that everybody needs to see this. And so you can start with impressions, and there's things such as display ads, there's TikTok, which you can boost your TikTok videos, things like that to really just help you get exposure. But to get there, you have to do a little bit of homework first, right? So we've identified 2 or 3 things, right? So maybe we want to gain more impressions, and from those impressions we want to generate more leads because our product is killer and our content is amazing. So now we have 2 or 3 things we want to increase. We want to increase our exposure, or impression, our reach, and we want more engagement. Okay, so now we have our measurement. So we have our measurement. What do we need now? Any guesses on what we need after we identified those? You're right. It definitely is data. The data that you've collected, or data that you can collect, because in artificial intelligence and machine learning, anything that you can infer can be used as a feature for your model. And we'll talk about features and we'll talk about models much later on. Well, I guess maybe not much later on, but maybe in a few videos. data is important. So when you have your data, you need to be able to understand how can you structure your data. You also want to be able to have enough data to be able to really identify any points of interest, any signals. Signal is something that might alert you to your, your success metric. In this case, maybe sales, maybe it's impressions, maybe it's engagement. But you need to be able to have data around that, store it, and on average, you need about a year's worth of data to really have a successful AI model. You can do more with less, and we'll talk about some of those approaches later. But ideally, you want about a year's worth of data, so then that way you can take on any seasonal aspect of your business, because just like the weather, your business has seasons too, and the more data you collect, the more seasonality and more seasonal signals you would be able to pick up from that. So then that way you can ramp up, ramp down, and better anticipate those peaks and valleys that your business will experience. So now that we have that, we need to do a couple things. One is we need to identify what is a baseline, and that's how you can position your data based off of maybe week over week, month over month, year over year, etc. So that way you can say, okay, this time last year I had 50,000 people looking at my widgets, and I need to forecast how to get to 75,000. So maybe I come up with a predictive or prescriptive model on how to get there. But you have to be able to structure your data to do so, and we're going to talk about some of those techniques again later on. This is the first video, so again, I can't give it all away. We have to be able to save something here for later. Keep you guys coming back. All right, so we have our data. We're able to measure it, and now we have a baseline. We understand what normal performance is like. Why is that important? Because artificial intelligence is conducting an experiment. Too many times people don't know how to conduct an experiment. What do you need when you conduct an experiment? Well, you need relative sample groups, you need a test, and you need a control, right? So you have a group of people that you want to do a thing to, and then that way you can measure them against a group of people who you didn't do that thing to. And we'll talk more about sampling and how to properly make sure that you set up your experiment so that way you can ensure that your business has gotten the effect that it wanted from its AI or machine learning or data science initiative. So where are we at so far? We're 19 minutes into tonight's presentation, and so far we've talked about who I am, because that's important. I'm just kidding. But we talked about being able to properly scope your initiative, and if you have more than 2 or 3 KPIs, your project is probably a little too big. And if you need to do all those things and you don't have the tools in place yet for that, you're probably a little early in your AI maturity. And we'll talk more about AI maturity as this series progresses. But with that AI maturity comes great growth. So it's very important to talk about. So you got your 2 to 3 KPIs. You have the data that you want to be able to perform your experiment on. You've reviewed how long it will take you to collect that data and how you're going to compare that data. And later on, again, you want to be able to separate them out into what? That's right, test and a control group. So that way you can accurately assess your experiment. Otherwise, it's worthless. Otherwise, you don't know what your return on an investment is, and you don't know if the tool that you just spent $200,000 on, if you're a large enterprise, actually does the thing that you need it to do. Also, one of the things that everybody talks about is data cleansing and data cleanliness, and we'll get into some data cleaning methods and validation later on. There's plenty of places in which you can help get yourself a data collection strategy. And again, that 1 year is best, so that way you can get the most out of your seasonal data. So we talked about what we have, we talked about how to structure it, we talked about how to measure it. It really feels like our scope is coming into place. And so from here, we should understand in our business, how long does it take to achieve the fact that we want. Seems like a scope, right? So we know the size, we know the data, we know what we want to measure, and we want to know how we're going to measure it. And those are really the keys for success in any project, not just data science, not just machine learning, and not just artificial intelligence. So we've been talking here for a while. I know that we have quite a few viewers here. The chat is open, so I don't know if it's working. So let's see if people got my messages or not. I don't know. It says that people on YouTube were able to get the message. So I don't know about the other channels. So if I didn't get to see something that you said and you wanted to get to me, let me know. Because next week we'll have a little bit better of a setup. But truly, doesn't look like we have anything coming in here. But I do want to thank everybody here who tuned in for this live event. We will be here again next week. We will have our second topic. I guess I could tell you what week 2 is going to be. If I'm looking down, it's because I'm checking my computer again. We're going to change layout. I'm in the middle of moving. So my studio is half torn apart. I apologize that only maybe a portion of my head is in the frame. It might be cut off from the chin below. I don't know. But it's been a day, and we've been doing AI, and we've been doing a bunch of other stuff. Anyway, so next week, what do we got next week? Oh, selecting your tools. How do you select the tools after you've identified your project, your scope, and how to measure it? So stay tuned. Remember, whatever platform you're watching me on, because we are on, let's see, Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube. Wherever you're catching me on, please toss me a subscribe, a follow, a notification. Email me. Carrier pigeon, smoke signals, etc. All of the above. Anyway, thank you guys for guys, gals, undetermined, undecided, etc. Please follow me.